Hey guys, welcome to our weekly news show here on Backstage with Millionaires. I'm Caleb, your host, and we've got an exciting show planned for you guys this week. So let's jump right in and start off by talking about how the State Bank of India, which is India's largest bank with more than 450 million customers, has banned the buying and selling of cryptocurrency using their UPI platform. Now, the State Bank of India doesn't actually own or operate UPI. That's the Unified Payments Interface. That's the job of the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India. However, as a payment service provider on the UPI platform, the State Bank of India does have the authority to impose these kinds of bans and restrictions for people who are using UPI through SBI. And normally in a case like this, I would just say, everybody who's interested in trading cryptocurrencies, just go and find another bank, right? But it seems like a lot of banks here in India are taking these kinds of steps to restrict the buying and selling of cryptocurrency here in India. For example, back in May, HDFC Bank warned investors dealing in cryptocurrencies like, for example, Bitcoin, that if they continued, they might have their cards canceled and their transactions restricted. And then also back in May, ICICI Bank and IndusInd Bank asked payment gateway operators to stop offering services like net banking to merchants who were trading in cryptocurrencies either directly or indirectly. And yet, in spite of all of these restrictions and the uncertainty about the future of crypto here in India, it looks like India's crypto space is still moving ahead. It's still chugging along. Crypto trading platform BuyUCoin has introduced systematic investment plans. These are SIPs for crypto assets. Now, at the time of me filming this video, BuyUCoin is offering two types of this crypto SIP. One is very simple, where you're just investing periodically into one cryptocurrency. They've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Litecoin, and Chainlink. And then the other type is more complicated, but basically it consists of all of these cryptocurrencies together in one systematic investment plan that you're investing in, obviously periodically. It's kind of like a mutual fund where they're putting everything together. And BuyUCoin is claiming that their investors who are actually adopting this SIP for cryptocurrencies may be able to see returns of up to 1,800% over a 5-year period. I don't know that much about cryptocurrency or crypto trading. If you do, leave a comment down below and let me know if that's a normal return on investment. I don't know if it's a little bit too bullish to say something like that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in a comment down below. All right, next up, this video is sponsored by Skillshare, a New York-based startup that was founded by Michael Karnjaprakorn. Michael spent less than $5,000 to build the first version of Skillshare back in 2010, and this MVP enabled him to go out and raise $10 million from investors. But how does one actually go about building a minimum viable product? How do you even come up with a startup idea in the first place? And more importantly, how do you figure out whether or not that startup idea is a good one? Well, Michael answers all of these questions in a Skillshare class dedicated to explaining how to build an MVP and validate your startup idea. I personally learned a lot from this class in particular because it was created by a successful startup founder, and so I would highly recommend that you go check it out. But there's also a ton of other classes dedicated to starting up and entrepreneurship and business on Skillshare. Like this one taught by Guy Kawasaki about turning ideas into high-growth businesses, or this one taught by Albert Wenger that will literally turn you into an expert on venture capital and the fundraising process. And all of these classes, along with hundreds of others just like them, are available on Skillshare ad-free for less than 200 rupees per month. That's less than what most cafes these days are charging for a cup of coffee. That's less than 2,400 rupees per year for unlimited access to this incredible online learning platform. But if you're still not convinced, you should know that Skillshare is offering a 1-month free trial to the first 1,000 Backstage with Millionaires viewers who click on the link in the description down below. So head on over to Skillshare and start learning how to start up successfully today. All right, next up in the news, Indian space tech startup Skyroot Aerospace has signed an agreement with the Indian Space Research Organization, that's ISRO, to gain access to their facilities and expertise as they build their line of Vikram rockets. They've already test-fired a rocket engine called the Kalam 5, and a bigger version of this rocket engine is actually going to be powering their Vikram rockets, which they're planning to start test launching in 2022. Now, some people are speculating that this might be the first of several such such agreements, as last year, Cosmos, which is another Indian space tech startup, had signed an NDA with ISRO, which people think might have been done in anticipation of them signing a similar agreement to what was just signed with Skyroot Aerospace. Time will tell if that's actually the case or not, but I'm excited to see what happens in this new Indian private space tech market. Alright, next up in the news, on the 15th of September, after a couple of days of technical glitches on their website, Ola Electric finally started taking orders for the S1 and S1 Pro electric scooters. And on that first day, they sold 80,000 units. They brought in revenue on that day, probably in the ballpark of 600 crore rupees. And this means that on that one single day, they sold more electric scooters than all of the electric two-wheelers sold in India in 2020 and the first half of 2021 combined. 10,000 women, to be specific, are going to be working in this factory, no men, which I think is a great thing considering the fact that ever since 2005, female participation in India's workforce has been declining. In 2005, it was sitting at 26.4%. By 2019, it had dropped down to 20.3%. And in 2020, during the pandemic, it dropped down to 16.1%. All right, next up in the news, a quick update on Pravaig Dynamics. Amidst all of this EV-related news, we actually haven't talked about these guys in a very long time, and we don't yet know anything about the Extinction Mark II, but what we do know is that Pravaig is going to be hosting a conference called PiCon, that's short for the Pravaig Industrial Conference, between the 24th and 25th of September, where they're going to be showcasing some of their prototypes, some of their battery technology, and they're also going to be inviting some partner brands to showcase their technology as well. And specifically talking about the second day of this event, the 25th, they're actually gearing this towards young people who are just entering into the industry and want to learn more. Now, besides the showcasing of this technology, there's also going to be panel discussions on tech, hardware, and vehicles, and I'm actually going to be personally attending this event not as a panelist, but as a guest. So if this sounds like something that you'd be interested in going to and you're based out of Bengaluru, then you can find an RSVP link in the description and pinned comment down below. All right, next up in the news, a quick update on the Freshworks IPO, which is going to be happening in the United States. Previous reports suggested that they were planning to raise $100 million, but now it looks like they're going to be raising between $798 million and $912 million at a $9 billion valuation. Now, in order to raise these funds, they're going to be selling 28.5 million shares, priced between $28 and $32 a share. All right, moving on to some acquisition news now. Indian SaaS startup Zenoti, which offers software as a service to spas and salons to help them manage their operations, had previously set aside $120 million for acquisitions. And they've just made their first one, SuperSalon, which is an American company that's been around since 1999. SuperSalon is a salon management software provider, and by acquiring them, Zenoti will be increasing the number of customers on their platform to 15,000. They're also going to be strengthening their position in this space globally, and of course, they're going to be increasing their revenue as well. All right, next up in the acquisition news, online pharmacy unicorn PharmEasy has made their third acquisition of 2021 after ThyroCare and MedLife. This new startup, Aknamed, was founded in 2018, and it's estimated that PharmEasy paid between $180 and $190 million to acquire them. Now, Aknamed, which is a cloud-based hospital supply chain management platform, has actually already, since 2018, acquired 4 separate healthcare and pharmaceutical distributor companies. So this is a great acquisition for PharmEasy to be making, especially in anticipation of their IPO, which they're expected to file for in the next month or two. All right, moving on to some funding news now. After several weeks of no new Indian startup unicorns, India finally has its 25th unicorn of 2021, not including 5-star business finance, and that startup is Mobile Premier League, or MPL for short, India's second ever gaming unicorn. They're estimated to have raised approximately $150 million to reach this valuation, although that number has not yet been confirmed by the company and probably never will. They announced it as an undisclosed amount of funds, which they raised in a funding round led by Legatum Capital at a $2.3 billion valuation. MPL currently has more than 70 games on their platform, being played by more than 85,000 people, 5 million of which are living in Indonesia. MPL also expanded in July to the United States, and they're planning to use these fresh funds to expand into 6 new markets in the next 3 years, and of course also to add more games to their platform. Alright, next up in the funding news, professional networking platform for blue-collar workers Apna has raised $100 million in a funding round led by Tiger Global at a $1.1 billion valuation, making them the 26th Indian startup unicorn of 2021. This is a huge jump from the $570 million that they were valued at 3 months ago, and another interesting fact about them achieving unicorn status is that they are now the fastest Indian startup to do so. They achieved this status in just 21 months, beating the record set by Udaan, which was 26 months. Now, if you want to know more about Apna, we actually made a video about India's top 10 social media startups, and Apna was on that list. We talked about them quite a bit. You can check that video out up here. It didn't really perform as well as we were hoping, so I would appreciate it if you check that one out after you're done watching this video. But Apna is going to be using these fresh funds to expand first within India from 14 cities to 28 cities in the next 2 months, and then later on to international markets like the Middle East, Africa, and the United States. Alright, next up in the funding news, blue-collar workforce management platform BetterPlace has raised $24 million in a funding round led by CX Partners and Jungle Ventures. This platform can be used to hire new employees, manage and disperse their salaries, and also offer services like insurance and upskilling, all in one place. The platform is being used now by more than 700 companies to manage over 7.5 million blue-collar workers. BetterPlace is going to be using these fresh funds to invest in technology in order to strengthen their platform by adding new products to it, and also to pursue inorganic growth opportunities. Alright, next up in the funding news, B2B edtech startup Eupheus Learning has raised $10 million from Lightrock India. This platform enables schools to bridge the gap between in-class and at-home learning by providing them with physical and digital reference books which these schools can give to their students. And while Eupheus and Lightrock India chose not to disclose the startup's valuation, the company did claim that they're actually a soonicorn. They're going to be using these fresh funds to add new products to their portfolio, enter new markets, and also pursue some acquisitions. Alright, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something as always. And if you did, it would mean a lot to us if you could hit the like button, share this video with a friend or two, and also if you haven't already subscribed, now would be a great time to do so because we post new videos every single week about Indian startups, entrepreneurs, and the latest news. Also, big thanks to all of our Backstage with Millionaires members, our unicorns, our decacorns, and our hectacorns. We have a new hectacorn this week. Thank you so much for your financial support, Bashkar. But all of you guys, everybody who's sending financial support our way, even people who are applauding our videos, I guess now YouTube is calling it super thanks. All of you guys are incredible human beings. Thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to us that you're sending your hard-earned cash our way. But even if you can't afford to financially support what we do here, just the fact that you've made it this far in the video, the fact that you've watched it through to the end really does help us out. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Backstage with Millionaires, and I will see you in the next one.